So, this video is not going to be scripted like I said it would be in my introduction, because I kind of realized that my general thinking style doesn't conform to a script. I just get off topic too easily. But I'll try it. I just have a few PowerPoints, so to speak, that I'm going to touch on, that I've written down. Today's topic is affirmative action. You can thank Danny Zimmer for that. He was the one who gave me the prompt. So, the way that I think about affirmative action is, like everything, extremely, extremely difficult to talk about in terms that are, a lot of my opinions come off as not what they are. So take everything that I say at face value. Like, if I say something that sounds offensive, 99.999% chance what I actually think is not offensive. I'm just not articulating it as I could. So I guess I'll start with the pros and cons as I see them of affirmative action. Starting with the cons, because I have some serious flaws or some serious objections to affirmative action. I'm not going to speak to whether or not I think we should partake in it. I think that generally it's very well intentioned, and that in a purely utilitarian sense it yields benefits, and that minorities can get into college and have better lives than they otherwise would. But the problems I see with it are that it's meant to, you have to ask yourself the question of what affirmative action quite affirms, right? We are essentially talking about minorities in such a way as that they always already remain defined as minorities, right? We are trying to solve the problem of them being oppressed, when in fact, in my opinion, talking about them as the oppressed always already entrenches them as oppressed, right? Because at the point at which you are talking about someone as if they are defined in terms of their blackness or whiteness or Latin Americanness or homosexuality or heterosexuality, that always already remains trapped within the, that always already operates within the framework of race. And I don't remember who said it, but there was Cornel West, I think. In order to end racism, we have to end race, right? We have to recognize that race is a continuum and not a fixed objective category or system of categories. And I think that the way that this operates, this kind of defining people in terms of their race, is a perfect example of what Marx, well, and later Slavoj Žižek, a thinker named Slavoj Žižek, would articulate. So I'm going to tell a brief story, or recount an early part of Slavoj Žižek's book, Living in the End Times, where he talks about how stupid he thinks the word racial tolerance is. And at first you might say, wow, that's just bad. Like, who is against racial tolerance, right? But here's his justification for this. He is not against the treating of minorities as people or anything like that. He is against the language by which we articulate them as people. In other words, at the point at which you are saying we need to tolerate minorities, you are always already assuming that those minorities have done something which is alien to you, or which is not what you are comfortable with, but that you have to tolerate, and that you are glad to tolerate, but still, they've done something wrong, and you are in the position of the superior white wasp who is forgiving them for their oriental mistakes, or whatever. And this is a perfect example of, I think, the way in which people who question the ways that we categorize race and sexuality and all that find it hard to talk about these things without, like, I can't talk about this with certain people because they'll either be very patronizing to me, where they'll just be like, oh, Philip with his crazy ideas, or they'll be very, very offended just because they don't know how to handle it. And I think that this is a perfect example of what I talked about in my last video, which is the failure of imagination, right? We need to we need to be brave enough to radically reconceptualize the way that we talk about race, such that there is a space within which dialogues like this can happen without being, without the you're a racist finger being pointed all over the place. I basically think that we should stop categorizing people based on race, right? And in order to back to the question of what we're affirming with affirmative action, we are affirming that they are black, or that they are the recipients of this action are black, or they are recipients in the first place. And not people who provide for themselves. That's what I think we should do. We should, instead of supplementing people, because we already place ourselves in the matrix of the ones with means, we should provide a space for them to make their own means. And that's my objection to affirmative action. On the pro side of things, I think that affirmative action is really well intentioned. I think that the fact that we do it and talk about it as a society is a good thing, especially compared to not having any discourse about race at all. I think the fact that I am able to object to this is made possible by people talking about it. It's definitely a sign of progress. I just think that we should take a step forward. It definitely sends a message of caring towards those minorities. It sends the message that whether or not we're actually helping them, we're at least trying to. Which is much better than what we've been doing historically in the past. It's like a birthday card, I kind of think. It's like, if you send a birthday card to someone, if you send a birthday card to well, not a birthday card, more like a card that you send to someone with cancer, like a get well card, where it doesn't really do anything to improve the situation, like, giving them food because they don't really know when or where to get food because all their time is spent caring for their ill loved one. But I think it a card that you send to someone really does, it's better than nothing, right? I think affirmative action is better than nothing, and the fact that I don't think it's the best possible way to deal with things doesn't mean that I don't think it's, on balance, a good thing, right? I just think that there are better things, better ways to handle it. So yeah, that's my opinion of affirmative action. I kind of just unloaded my stream of consciousness all at once. So yeah, have fun in the comment section.